We've been asked to have a look at the roof and gutters at number 31 Caroline Street in Hawthorn East. So this is a triple-storey residential block of units that's probably around 60 or so years of age, and it does still retain the original galvanised clip-lock roof. Now, the guttering system has been replaced at some point in time. I'll talk about that in a moment, but I'll start off with the roof and the condition of the roof. So as you can see, it's pretty rusted over the entire roof area, mainly caused because it's underpitched. I'll go over that in a moment with the remedies and what we've got to do with that. But it's been underpitched, so it's holding water on there for a majority of the time and eventually just rusts out. That water's not escaping and getting off the roof quickly enough, and obviously it's caused problems. So, look, it's had a pretty good life, I would think. It's done pretty well. As far as the pitch of the roof goes, it is underpitched. However, it's not one of these roofs that looks like it's holding water. So structurally, I would think that that is pretty good underneath. However, it does need to be lifted up and elevated up. But we're not looking at big dips and things in the roof like we do with some roofs. So I think it's held up pretty well for its actual age. So we can work with that pretty well. So what can happen when the roof is as flat as what it is, and because the water's not discharging, the ribs on this roof are not very far apart. They're not quite as wide as the new roofs that we put on now. So the carrying capacity in each of those ribs is fairly limited. And because the actual level of the roof is very flat, it's not getting off the roof quickly enough. So it can have a tendency to actually flood in a really heavy rain. And some of these rains that we have these days and the intensity of those really puts a lot of pressure on these flat roofs. So very important that we do elevate it up and get at least 1 degree fall on it so that the water can actually get off it a lot quicker than what it would be on there now. So it is really important that we do lift it up and elevate it. It's not just the roof that needs replacing, it's the structure underneath, and it's pitched at around 0.3 of a degree, which, as you can see here, according to the manufacturer's recommendations, is well under the recommended 1 degree pitch for deck roofing. Now, if you do install a roof outside the manufacturer's recommendations, you're leaving yourself wide open to not being covered by insurance or warranties. And let's face it, with Melbourne's increasing rainfall, you wouldn't want to be left without the proper insurance and warranties. So what we need to do is to reframe this entire roof area to come up to a minimum of 1 degree. So we normally do try to build a bit of a redundancy into that and come a little bit over where we can. We can't always do this, as sometimes we're governed by council regulations regarding heights of buildings, etc. But we do always achieve a minimum of at least 1 degree. So you are in a neighbourhood residential zone with a heritage overlay. So this could cause some problems with town planning. However, we won't know that exactly until we submit the plans to the council. So we need to get those drawn up. We'll give you a bit of an indication of what we think the town planning costs will be, but that can vary with things like advertising and the way the councils work. So we don't always know until we actually submit it and to see what they need. So just be prepared that there may be some added costs. We'll add what we think is going to be needed, but there could be some added things after that as well. Now, as you can see here from the attached literature from the Victorian Building Authority, that any structural work to an existing building, regardless of the cost, requires a building permit to be obtained by an independent building surveyor. Now, he's an industry expert, and his job is to attend and inspect the project and also report back to the VBA and the relevant council to make sure that all these jobs are being done correctly and compliantly. So there is a fair bit of red tape and expense required to gain that building permit, and the time that it takes to get the permits through council, unfortunately since COVID, has drawn out to around that 16 to 20 week mark from getting the relevant plans drawn up to applying for the building permit. And then it could take even longer. I would think it will with the town planning side of it as well. So I can't stress enough that the quicker a decision is made, the better, and to get the works into the system. That way we can get the process moving while you're potentially still raising funds if you need to. Look, I just want to quickly mention about treating of the roof sheets because it has come through about some coatings and what have you. So I know there are some companies out there that profess to be able to magically treat the roofs and paint them and they'll look like new. And these roofs do look pretty good once they're first done. However, it doesn't last long as that rust tends to bleed through. And as you can see here with some roofs that have been done previously, that rust does tend to come through. The things with the coatings, it's not going to improve the fall or the pitch of the roof. So you're still going to have a very flat roof with water collecting on that roof in heavy rains. So it's not going to fix that. It's not going to fix your gutter problems, and what can happen is the rust continues underneath, and we've had instances where you get up onto the roof and it actually looks okay because the paint's over the top of it. However, it's rusted out underneath. Put a foot through it and actually have gone through into the ceiling and damaged the ceiling. So we've had that happen to us a couple of times, and we've had to repair them with other companies doing that with gutter cleans and what have you. So you're putting people up there with potential rust forming under the roof, and it could be a bit of an issue there as well. And the thing with it too is anti-rust paints, which are commonly used, they need a surface preparation to have the substrate dust-free and to be made rust-free by means of either sandblasting or high-pressure cleaning. So the roof sheets are only 0.5 millimetre thick. So if you're going to put any of that pressure down onto those roof sheets, you could potentially blow a hole in those roof sheets anyway. And then you're starting off with holey roof sheets and you're trying to cover over those. So not a great way to be looking at it. Being only 0.5 millimetre thick, you don't have a lot of material to play with. Rust converters can be used as well. Now, these claim that they can transform rust back into metal. Now, unfortunately, scientifically, this just cannot happen, as can be seen by the attached literature from Standards Australia, who have provided a report on rust converters, and they declare that rust converters only cause a colour change and do not convert the rust back to metal. And these products are generally expensive and don't work. They're just not a cost-effective way to treat the roof. Once that roof is started, really there's no other option other than to replace the roof. So I know it's normally thought that if the roof can be painted and you can get a few more years out of it to raise funds for a replacement, then that's the way to go. But really it's better to do nothing and just leave the roof as it is at this point in time. Save as much money moving forward for that full roof replacement. In some cases, we're able to help you out with providing some repair work to get you through until that roof is replaced. And look, we look at this on a job-by-job basis. Sometimes it is awkward to provide temporary repairs to flat roofs, but we would do the best we can to help you out. So just be careful while you're getting your quotes and the information you're given is correct, as I know there are other plumbers and roofing companies out there that do not have the ability to provide a contract with a building permit. They'll try to tell you that it's not required, as obviously they don't want to lose the work. Rain Shield Roofing are licensed plumbers and we're registered builders, and we can provide all the necessary contracts and insurances required to undertake these works. Now, what this means is we need to secure our new roof down into that existing structure, and we use cyclone screws and hoop iron tie downs to avoid the roof potentially lifting off in heavy wind events. We build structural supports that are tied down into the roof. Now, this is all engineered prior to us starting the roof. So we have a structural engineer to tell us what we need to do to build all that through and to tie it in, and that's what the building surveyor then comes out and inspects, that we're doing it all to his standards. Okay, so just on the gutters and the fascias, so the gutters themselves look like they have been replaced probably 10 or more years ago, and they look to be in colour bond as well. Now, even though they're in good condition, they do not comply to standards of today. They are not large enough either, and they don't have compliant overflow. So we need to put a larger guttering system on there, which is only going to help you out with gutter cleans, as well as being able to take a larger volume of water off the roof and down into your downpipes. And also, if something did happen, it will have an overflow system in it so that it overflows the outside of the building and not inside the building, which potentially this one could do. So your fascias as well, they don't look too bad a condition, but it's the perfect time to encapsulate those in Colorbond. So we can do that with a Colorbond fascia encapsulation system that we do, and then that'll protect them. You'll never have to paint them or do any repair work on them ever again. So really is a very good way to save some money while we're up there, and we've got all our safety equipment up there that we can do that for you as well. All right, so the scope of works will be as follows. We need to go through that building permit process, which means we need architectural drawings, we need to appoint the building surveyor, homeowner's warranty insurance, and also engage the engineer, both structurally and hydraulically. And there is quite a few other different council permits and approvals that we require, and these do all take time and probably allow anything up to 10 to 12 months at this point in time from the acceptance of the job to the start date. So it does run out a fair way at this point in time. So I do recommend that you choose the company that you're going to go ahead with even before you raise your levies, and then let us start that building permit process while you're still getting the money raised, if that's still required. So once the job's able to start, obviously safety is of the highest importance. We need to get a crane to lift the roof sheets onto the roof safely. This sometimes can mean that the residents of the building have to have cars moved or move out before we come in that morning so they can get to work. We need to get that crane in the driveway so we can lift the roof sheets up. This can cause a few issues, but we work with you the best that we can to avoid any problems, give you plenty of notification. We need a scissor lift on site to handle materials, so this this machine's generally left on site and requires a car park, as we're not allowed to leave the machine out on the road. And we also need an access tower to get our employees safely onto the roof. And we need perimeter handrails as well to stop anyone obviously falling off the roof. So these are installed at the very start of the job and the last things to come down once the job's completed. The old roof is then removed a section at a time. We don't take the entire roof off and then tarp it all up or anything silly like that. So with Melbourne's ever-changing weather, we just can't afford to take off more than we can lay in a day. There's some air conditioning units up on the roof that will require decommissioning and to be recommissioned. We get our air conditioning mechanic in to do that for you as well. Now, the roof framing will be elevated to that one side of the roof, so opposite the gutter, basically. If you can see where the gutter is at the moment, the opposite side of that will be lifted up, I reckon about 150 to 200 millimetres, so it is a reasonable amount. We've got to keep this as low as we can because of the planning permit, but we'll do it to a minimum of 1 degree or a little bit over that 1 degree just to allow for some timber shrinkage and movement and what have you, but it's going to be lifted up around about that 150 to 200 millimetres. Now, the building's also going to be insulated. This is the first of 2 thermal upgrades that we do recommend. We do install a 75mm insulation blanket under the roof. This has a silver sarking or a building paper attached to one side. It's a really good thermal control and it's also great to reduce noise. We'll be installing this in a heavy gauge 0.48 clip lock colorbond steel roof. Now, 0.48 is what the manufacturer recommends for low pitched roofs. It's also good for foot traffic when the trades are up on the roof to clean gutters and maintain any services. And we do this in a white colorbond. So this is a great thermal upgrade, as your normal plain steel can get to 110 degrees on a 38 degree day, whereas white colorbond will stay as low as 55 degrees in those same conditions. All of the flashings and cappings need to be replaced, so the cappings will be extended to cover one full roof pan. At the moment, they are quite narrow on the edges and at the back of the roof, at the top end of the roof, so these will be made larger. The vents and pipes that are coming up through the roof will be all properly flashed off using deck-tight flashings, and the guttering needs to be replaced. Like I said before, we'll be upgrading this to a 200mm half-round colorbond guttering. And like I said before, that's a much bigger gutter than what you've got up there now, a lot more efficient and effective to get rid of the water, a lot easier to do cleans on it as well. There's just a lot more room in it, so really good gutter overall. The downpipes will be upgraded to a 100 by 100 millimetres in colorbond, and they'll terminate at ground level with an inspection opening so they can be accessed to enable drain cleaning in the future. Now, just on the drains, if you haven't had the below ground drains cleaned in the last couple of years, I do recommend you do so. I will give you an option for that. A lot of people forget about the below ground drains and don't realise that they are connected to the roof. So if they're blocked or even partially blocked, they can really cause a lot of problems with water banking back up the downpipes. So what we do there is we fit rain heads at the top of the downpipes as well. So rain heads actually have an overflow system built in them, so if it does block up, they'll overflow out through the rain head before it blocks up into the guttering system as well. The guttering, like I said, has got its own inbuilt overflow system out through the back of it as well, so it won't get inside. And then those rain heads also provide pressure down the downpipe and that water into that stormwater system a lot more effectively. So if you have had the drains cleaned out the last couple of years, that's fine, don't worry about it, that should all be good, but we will give you that option to get them cleaned out if you need to. I'm also going to provide an option for a roof safety system. So this will include a roof hatch and a ladder access onto the roof from an internal common property stairwell coupled with a commercial grade anchor point system that can be used for roof maintenance, such as your gutter cleans and servicing of plant and equipment. Just bear in mind we allow this to go through a plaster ceiling. We haven't been inside to inspect that. We will need to come out and inspect it. They do go through concrete ceilings occasionally. If it is a concrete ceiling, there will be added costs. So there's engineering, there's some steel work, concrete cutting and things like that. So obviously it is a lot more difficult to do. We can do it for you, no problems, but we don't allow for that in this price. We will need to have a look at it and determine whether that is the case. I'm also going to provide that option for colorbond fascia encapsulation, as the fascias, like I said before, are showing some signs of wear and tear and need to be painted. All right, look, that's about it. We like to provide these videos as a way to get the most information to you in the easiest way possible. Replacement of a roof like this is a big decision, and getting the correct information is paramount. If you do have any questions and you would like to speak with me directly, my name is Darren and my number's on the bottom of the quote, or alternatively you can contact the office to arrange a meeting either on site or by Zoom. If you stay watching, we've included some before and after shots of our most recent projects. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video and have a great day.